put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. The contrary, no. Carried. Thank you. Item 8 on page 13. The big one, adoption of the supporting accountability documents, consultation document for the 15-25 long-term plan. I'll hand that over to Mr. Drury.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just taking a few notes here because it is a little bit different, this paper, and it's also been a little bit confusing, so I hope it hasn't been too confusing for you. So we'll just go through it in some steps. I'd just like to make the point that this is the first time the Council is approving a consultation document. Previous years, you'll recall that we've approved a draft long-term plan, so there is quite a change this year. And that's due to the Act being amended, which requires Council to approve long-term plan supporting accountability documents, and then a consultation document. And the consultation document is, of course, the main document that goes out to all households. The supporting accountability documents reside on the website for reference, and that's something that every council, an approach that every council is taking. So we have in front of us a paper distributed that gives effect to this process. The paper specifies the changes made from the consultation document that you received at your workshop on the 24th of February. That's the last time you saw the consultation document. And there have been some changes in the paper that the hard copy paper that was distributed on Wednesday for this meeting. The one in front of you, item 8, specifies the changes required by audit to that CD document that was in front of you at the last workshop. The next part of the equation is that since we sent this out last Thursday, audit, there have been numerous discussions with audit, to be fair, a significant number of little bits and pieces that needed to be changed, not only from recommendations from Audit New Zealand, but the hot review team from the Auditor General. And bear in mind, this is a new process for them too, so it has been rather interesting for the senior management, to be fair. So we have additional adjustments that they required to be made before they would issue their audit report. Now, we do have their audit report, and last night we emailed out a further copy of the consultation document and pages of the supporting accountability documents that were required to be altered by the audit team prior to them making available their audit report. So we've tried to be as clear as possible on the path through, and I apologise if you've confused in any aspect, but we'll certainly help you through that. So we have a hard copy of what it's been distributed, has it, Leanne? Yeah. Okay, so you've got in front of you a hard copy of what was distributed last night by email. Now, the hard copy of the consultation document, which is your first, they haven't been put in attachments, unfortunately, but the first one, the big long A3 one, is the consultation document that you'll be considering and resolving to adopt, to distribute. That's the final copy. And that's what's been audited, and that's what the audit report's on. If there's any change in that, then it needs to go back to audit. So I'm told. So it can't be adopted subject to something or other, because the audit report is given on what's in front of us. So that's the process that's been that has been explained to me, and it's been implemented for every council throughout the country. So what you see in front of you is the audited version of the consultation document. And then the next attachment to the information that you've been given this morning, the next attachment provides details of where the consultation document has been amended from that sent out in the mail to you as part of this agenda. Okay, so you've got a process. You've got the workshop on the 24th of February, CD document. You've got the paper, the council paper, telling you where that varies from from the document in the distributed paper, and then the next step, you've got a few additional amendments on the hard copy sent out this morning. So, and also there's some minor, very minor changes to the supporting accountability documents, which I need to put in front of you, so as you're aware of them before you resolve to accept the supporting accountability documents, which is this pile of paper. So when you resolve to adopt these supporting accountability documents, it will be in recognition of the one or two minor amendments that are in the papers distributed to you today. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to go through the changes to the consultation document, just so as it gives you a path forward and enables you to ask some additional clarification.
Before we do, sorry, I've been looking at my papers and I suspect that hand's been up for a while. Councillor Scott.
Question, Mr. Chairman. This has now been through audit. They've recommended certain changes. What happens if we now want to make any other changes? Are we actually here now to say, well, that's it?
Well, my understanding of that is if other changes were to be made, then we need to know what the changes are. We need to put them on the document today, send them to audit, and they need to action them immediately.
Can I just tease this out? What sort of changes are you talking about? Are you like material changes or spelling changes, or?
Well, some of them are minor, some are clarification, because the change has been made, which I think actually leaves the identification even more muddy. But quite frankly, the way we've now put the options, I don't think they're well worded. So does that leave us in the position that this is what audit has said, we have to lump it, or? Well,
Councillor, I think you raised a very good question, and 2 weeks ago I'd have been on your side. Now, after being worn down on a very long process and amended it several times, and it has gone through this hot review team of the Controller and Auditor General that looks at the whole 87 of them. Liz and I did say, what do you want for the options? And they said, you need to put your options down, 1, 2, 3, or whatever they are. You need to state your preferred option. You need to state what the impact on the level of service is in those options. You need to state whether there's any effect on debt. And it's all A, B, C, and Liz and I and Drew have accomplished that. So hence we've got our audit report. But I take your point, Councillor. It does. You may feel as though you're being dished up with a... But the workshop was where we got the flavour of where you wanted to go, and then I think what has happened is that the staff have tried to put that forward in a way that is acceptable to
Without
the
putting
audit
it on the
process.
table now, I still have queries around that. It's one that I've raised all along. Do you go out and say to a turkey, would you like an early Christmas? Do you put, are you happy with this rate rise? I'm sorry, I think it just puts the, I mean, who says, yes, I want to pay more rates? Who says that?
No, what we have said, Councillor, because to start with we did say that, but what we have now said is, are you happy to pay this level of rate? If you are not.
When we get to if we come to the discussion, my issue was procedural. Are we in the position to be able to, and without my colleague interrupting, I ask a question, can we make amendments to this or not? Are we stuck with it? Is what we've got what we must accept?
Yeah, I mean, if there are changes, then it needs to go back through the process again, and then the timing for consultation needs to just move around. At the moment, we've got 5 weeks for consultation. We've got a week or so to summarise any submissions coming in for council and what have you. That process would have to take some time out of that.
Short answer looks like a no. Okay. So other questions on procedural, etc.? Do you wish to take us through it now?
Well, I just thought I should take you through it rather than just say, well, here it is, because the last The last one of the consultation document you saw was on the 24th of February. So if we go to item 8, bottom of page 13, I have moved through there and explained what some of the more major changes to the consultation document have been as required by this audit process. But and I've listed out there about 4 major areas, and I've given the page references to the consultation document so as you could find them in there. We haven't been able to do a track change, so what
The
page-
council paper,
council paper,
page
item
14
8,
in our papers.
item 8, page 13, down the bottom, councillor.
14 in our papers.
13 and 14, yeah, 13 and 14. 13 and 14. So, I mean, this is this first point here, which refers to pages 6 and 8 of the consultation document, which is your proposals, and this is something that Councillor Scott's already referred to, is this options. So the proposal set out in the plan section of the consultation document required further clarification as to the options, even if the option was a status quo, and hitherto we hadn't really done it that way. So what was required was clearly set out your options, and we've done that in bullet points so as people can see that there are an option, even if it is the status quo. And we have also stated what the preferred option is, because that's required as well. So that's a change of format from what was in the CD document in the workshop. The next major change what's this? Audit New Zealand requests clarification be provided on the status of the council's big investment projects, and you will find that at the bottom of page 9. Bottom of page 9. So we have put in another section there, update on our big investments. Now that section there comes from the finance. Are you there? I know I'm popping around. Page.
Just so we're clear, where are we now? We're in this
Page
9 of the consultation.
of the consultation
page
document.
9 of the consultation document. And the one the consultation document you better to look at is this big one that was handed out to you, which is double-sided, which makes a trick. And I'm on page 9 now of that big.
I don't want to see delays in this thing and the thing having to go back through, but for a start, and this is only a minor point, in relation to Napier Gisborne Rail, it says that Kiwi Rail have advised their withdrawal of a previous offer to lease the line. That's not strictly correct. They've refused an extension of time to negotiate. Nowhere in their letter do they say that they've withdrawn their offer to lease. I can live with that, but what I'm not happy about is I note that the email addresses of the councillors have been changed, and there's been no unanimous agreement as far as I'm concerned, for that to happen. I don't want another email address.
I'm getting that message from a few of you, actually.
Can I be absolutely emphatic? I will not have any email to that address. I'm not using it. I'm not going to have anybody assign me my postal address or email address. Will not.
But you accepted it in Parliament.
I had another email address, but
Yeah. We're not taking that off you. Anyway, look, the
but-
emails
but,
are...
But I want to say to you, that experience and some other experiences made me absolutely clear I'm not going to have anybody else to have my email address.
Okay. We can change that, surely. We can change email addresses if they're not accurate, because if you push the button on the majority of those email addresses at the moment, it'll go nowhere. Yeah.
Drew?
Okay.
Email address?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Okay, engineer, fine with him. The emails.
We're hoping not.
If
We're
I
hoping
spoke
not.
to the auditor, he'd say definitely, but I'm
Wouldn't you rather have that
finding it a
address
challenge, really.
knowing it wouldn't get to you, councillor? Maybe.
We wouldn't know the response.
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's administrative,
Got to
surely.
be.
Yeah.
It's got to be. So yeah, okay. So yeah, so the update on the big investments are in there. It is a substantial work that this council is doing. So I agree, it should be in there, and it is. The next amendment we made is under your rates, page 11 of this document. Page 11. Yeah, there was a need to put example properties for rates. We hadn't done that. The approach that we had adopted, if you're on page 11 there, the way we proposed to indicate to people the extent to which rates were moving up is on the right-hand side, those commercial, urban and rural percentages and an overall percentage. We felt that got the message across. However, the legislation is quite specific that their example properties must be given, and I've noted that every consultation document, there's 45 already gone through the process, have all got tables showing example properties. So on the bottom of page 11 we have got example properties for residential, commercial and rural, showing the percentage increases for these example properties, and it refers back to the detail in the funding impact statement, which will be on the web, and any property here you can have a look at what rates they pay. Chairman? No. Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a query around this, and I notice in the updated copy from following the audit that Napier has been changed to Napier and Taradale. However, as it reads at the moment, the dearer your property, the higher the value of the property, the lower your rates. So they're actually putting in examples like that as misleading. I am assuming that the Taradale property is higher, because now you've identified it not just as Napier, but the Taradale property will be higher because it pays a direct benefit rate for flood protection, whereas the Napier is based on a hill property which pays an indirect benefit. But you can't tell that from the example that's sitting there. You're showing one example with a higher land value, higher capital value, lower rates.
No, you're onto it, Councillor, and indeed we put a note down the bottom, didn't we?
And that was one of the reasons, Councillor, why initially we had Napier and we thought, and the audit said, well, why is exactly that a lower valued property paying more rates? So we said, well, it's because of the flood protection component, so that's why we chose to put Taradale, which if anyone knows or on a need to know basis is flat principally, versus Napier Hill. And so if anyone needs to tease that out more, they could find out more about why there's that difference. But you know, the requirement is to put in sample properties. That's the fact at the moment. How
And it
it's
doesn't
working.
need an asterisk saying
Well, we tried to.
direct benefit from flood protection or something. As it reads, your first guess is, oh, you've got table around the wrong way.
Well, it's a choice of what you put. I mean, at one stage 2 days ago, I wrote that in, and I think what was decided in the end, rather than explain differences in every line, because of course there's differences in every line, you're better to refer to them, to the funding impact or revenue and financing statements, or go through it in some detail. And you know, if they are challenged, they're better to go to that section and really understand it rather than rely on a series of, well, in fact, we only offered to put in one note because there's only room for one note. So this whole document is, that's a summary. If you want more detail, there's a supporting paper and there's a link to the supporting paper.
Chairman, I accept that, but quite frankly, I'd challenge anybody who reads that not to say, well, they've got this wrong, or who's going to go and check that one out? Sorry.
Yeah, I take
But
your point.
I don't think they're two good examples, because
No, I agree. If I was doing it again, and these take a lot of working up, and it's the 11th hour, if I was doing it again and I realised that difficulty, I would have chosen another Napier property, to be fair, and I'm sure that's your recommendation. Yeah. No. we'll learn from that, I think. The next one is are our finances in good shape? That's page 12 of this document. Page 12. And it's the graph, the operating and general funded surplus deficit graph, page 12. It's the one on the television screen. We did the graph you saw at the workshop really had the surplus deficit hugging that the zero line, because of course we've just about balanced our budget every year, and audit felt that that didn't say an awful lot because the line was so jolly close. I thought it did because it actually indicated we are balanced, but they felt that many of the other presentations done on consultation documents also had the operating surplus and deficit, which is quite healthy for us, and it is for a lot of councils, because the operating, that's the operating contribution to capital and investment works, and our council has got a considerable amount of money going into capital, flood and drainage area and investment, so therefore we've got a fairly healthy operating surplus. Money's available to go into, for instance, part of the operating surplus is capital rates. But it shows a picture. It's important that for that to go in. It's a favourable picture, and there it is. The final one is infrastructure assets on page 16 of this document. Page 16. And what has gone in there is the table on the left-hand side, the infrastructure forecast, which shows renewal expenditure and capital, which is enhancement and level of service increases for the flood and drainage or infrastructure assets. And it shows there that a considerable sum is being spent on council's infrastructure. And that graph they felt was very worthwhile. There's also a paragraph right down the bottom of page 16, right-hand side. Hiratonga Plains River scheme were consulted on. They believed there needed to be a better statement about the additional consultation work still to come about, and how some of the figures in future annual plans and long-term plans may change after that consultation has taken place. Okay. Now, Mr. Chairman, the next place perhaps we could go to is the document that was handed out today, and it's attachment 2, which isn't marked as attachment 2, but it is 4 pages of long-term of the CD document, and there are red marks on there that that Drew's put in very, very legibly, and we've provided that as a track change from the version that went out, was sent out as part of the council papers, and the version you've now got in front of you is the final